Okay, so today I want to talk about something we all wrestle with, right? Whether we admit it or not. And I call it the more society, the chase of wealth, right? The chase of celebrity, the chase of being the first to do something or to achieve something. But the real question is, when does more become enough? You know, we live in a culture where contentment almost looks like laziness. It's a sad society that we live in. Like everyone is money driven. The life that we want to live isn't just involved with the possessions that we have, the things that we have. We have to live a life of purpose, right? We have to live a life of impact. Life's not about more. Life is truly about meaning. I think if we continue to go down this path of wanting more and trying to attain all the possessions that we can have, it's truly going to leave our life meaningless. All right, welcome to the new episode of the Myles Hype Podcast. This is Myles Jr. And as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right. So just want to plug our brand, our merch brand, the Legacy Brand Shop. You can visit our website, legacybrandshop.com. Check out the merch that we have. Got a number of sweatshirts and t-shirts available right now. We'll be offering some new designs, some new products very shortly. But you can check it out, legacybrandshop.com. You can see what we have to offer. And, you know, you can wear the merch you see me wearing all the time. Been getting a lot of feedback on it. Really appreciate the love. Appreciate those of you who've supported the brand already. But want to continue, you know, to keep pushing the brand because it's more than just, you know, a brand that I'm pushing. It's sort of a lifestyle, right? Some things that I live by, right? And the quotes and designs that we have all have meaning behind them. And, you know, just to incorporate it into, personally for me, my daily life, everywhere I go, everywhere I walk through, you know, if someone is reading the shirt, you know, I get comments of people, you know, just kind of saying, man, that's a powerful statement. It's a good shirt. Where'd you get it from? You know, I'm able to do some plugging as well. So, you know, if you want to be stylish but with purpose, you can check our brand out, legacybrandshop.com. All right. Okay, so today I want to talk about something we all wrestle with, right? Whether we admit it or not. And I call it, for the most part, the more society, right? It's the pressure we feel to, no matter what we accomplish, what we own, or how far we've come, to always do more, right? Always achieve more. Man, what's the next thing that I can get? What's the next thing that I can do? What's the next success that I can have? It's another upgrade, another chase, another goal, another something that's added to our to-do list, to achieve list, right? But the real question is, when does more become enough? You know, I came up with this topic. I was listening to someone do an interview, and they were just talking about how the societies that we live in around the world, right? And you know, I'm not just talking about here in the Western world. I'm talking about globally, right? There's a true capitalist mindset that is really taking over, and it's really showing its face now even more. Like I see this influx of the chase of wealth, right? The chase of celebrity, the chase of being the first to do something or to achieve something or to have the most of this or to be the first with this. You know, it's creating this society of greed. And I mean, you know, that's the fruit of capitalism, right? Where the haves and the have-nots don't. And I think for me, this really hits home because of the mindset that I have, right? Where it's more of a community mindset, right? I have always been an individual where, yes, I always want to be successful, and I always want to achieve, the highest levels of whatever it is that I'm working on, right? To be the best at it, or to be one of the best at it, and to consistently see people doing the way that they do that is to bring others down, or to take advantage of, or manipulate others or certain situations. That's not what I believe in. That's not the mindset that I have. And it's, it just begs the question, man, when does more become enough? Like, when are you going to be satisfied? When are you going to be content with what it is that you have, right? We live in a culture where contentment almost looks like laziness, right? When you say, man, I'm happy with what I have, I'm happy with this, I'm happy with that, people look at you and they may look at what you have, and to them, it may not look like enough, or may not look like what they see in their eyes as success. And they say, man, you're just happy because you're lazy, or you're not happy, you're just lazy. And it's sad. It's a sad society that we live in. Like, everyone is money driven, at this point. Everything is about, man, how much I can attain, how much I can make, how much wealth I can have, how much wealth I can access. But if you're not chasing something, people assume you've fallen behind. We scroll through social media and see someone else's highlight reel, and then suddenly we feel small. And that's one thing I hate, especially about how popular social media has gotten, and with us as individuals who spend a majority, maybe not a majority, we spend a lot of our times, scrolling social media. If you're not strong-willed or have a strong mindset, like, you're gonna allow what you're seeing to truly influence you, and I think we're living in a world now where it's easier for us to see behind the veil, right? So my friends and I were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, and we were saying how back in the days when we were growing up, like in the late 80s and the 90s, early 2000s, we only had access to what people allowed us to have access to, right? We didn't have this. We didn't have the capabilities of searching any and everything we wanted to search, or even we didn't have the mentality to even know that we can, right? But we're living in an era now where you can fact check anything, and even though you can fact check anything, you could still find out wrong information because there's misinformation out there, right? And you have to, in this day and age, decipher what's true from what's not. But even that can be detrimental to a society because, everyone is chasing what everyone else says, they have or they have attained. Everyone wants to have this certain level of success and achievement, but they're not displaying what it takes to get there, right? And you find a lot of people, breaking the law to achieve these things, and it's putting themselves, putting their families, putting their loved ones, their employees, their businesses, putting everything at risk, right? Just so that they can have more. Each week we hear about someone who is being convicted of fraud, being convicted of a scam, being convicted of stealing, being convicted of just committing these crimes that is directly related to them just wanting more, wanting to display or portray a particular lifestyle, that the only way they see that they can do it or portray it is by breaking the law. But the truth is, the more society is truly a trap. It convinces us that fulfillment comes from accumulation, right? The more money you have, the more possessions you have, the more followers you have, the more recognition you get, right? The more value, quote unquote, that you have. In my last episode, we talked about value and how to build value, right? And society tells you that you increase value by having more, right? Having the most of this or the most of that, the most money, the biggest house, the nicest car. But no matter how much you get, the hunger never goes away. And, that's where we fall into this trap in the more society, right? Because life tells us that, man, if I get this, this level of a success, this amount of money, this size house, this type of car, this beautiful of a spouse, I'm gonna feel content. I would have made it, right, quote unquote. I would have achieved the highest level of success that I could achieve. And you get there, or you attain one or two of those things, and it's like, okay, I want more. I want to get the next thing. I want to get the next newest model of this or the newest model of that. And I think if we don't really take heed to where this more society is taking us, it's really going to cause us to drop into a downward spiral. And we're just going to start doing things because, not for the love of it, or not because purpose is behind it, but because of our selfish greed. The Bible is clear about this idea of the more society, right? Ecclesiastes 5:10, it says, "Whoever loves money never has enough, and whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income." And for me, it's just always great to see how, these principles that are in the Bible that has been there for years, we can constantly apply those to our lives, regardless of the era that we're in, the generation that we're in, the year that we're in. It's always going to be relevant, right? And the Bible clearly tells us that there is a more society. The more society has existed for centuries, right? But right now, what we're experiencing now, it wasn't any different than what they were experiencing back in, the times of the Bible, right? The stories that we read in the Bible, even in those times, they experienced the same things. But Jesus himself also warned us in Luke 12:15, right? "Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in an abundance of possessions." And that's just simply telling us that, the life, right? The life that we want to live isn't just involved with the possessions that we have, the things that we have, right? We have to live a life of purpose, right? We have to live a life of impact, and not impact on ourselves, right? Or achieving things personally for ourselves, but more so impacting those around us, right? And the lives of others, because I feel like that's where our true wealth lies. In other words, life's not about more. Life is truly about meaning, right? You can have all the things in the world, and your life can be empty, right? Can be meaningless. We hear about it all the time, where you either see or hear these individuals who have attained a lot of wealth, a lot of recognition, a lot of celebrity, like they're well known, but they're broken, right? They still aren't happy. They aren't content. They aren't satisfied with their lives. And it has nothing to do with the possessions that they have. It's because they're living a life with no meaning, right? They're living a life with no purpose. And, I think if we can go and just lay a foundation on Matthew 6, verse 33, and it just simply says, "To seek ye first the kingdom of God and its righteousness, and then all of these things will be added." And that's another verse that I found, or I try to found my life on, my life's journey on. Everything that I desire, all the needs that I have, there shouldn't be a want in me to get those or to attain those, right? My focus should be on this mandate, this command that we were given, just to seek the kingdom of God and to be in right standing with the laws of the kingdom. And then everything else would be provided, right? It wouldn't have to be me like overworking myself or becoming greedy, or just not being focused on what the meaning of life is as opposed to what the more of life is, right? And I think if we continue to go down this path of wanting more and trying to attain all the possessions that we can have, it's truly going to leave our life meaningless. I could reflect on growing up. I remember, I've been through battling with the more society before, I battle it to this day, right? I still struggle with this dilemma of wanting more, right? Wanting not just tangible or physical things, but just wanting more on a professional level as well, right? And on a personal level, just never really being satisfied with what I have. But I started to turn the corner when I was much younger, and I purchased my first luxury car. I had this goal, or this desire, I should say, to have a Range Rover, right? That was my car of like, man, this is the car that I want. And saved up some money and was able to purchase my first Range Rover, my first luxury car. And I could remember the first day I got the car. I sat in the car, turned the car on. My first thought, ironically enough, was, man, this car starts just like every other car I've driven in, right? And when I'm sitting in this car, I can't see the car that I'm sitting in, right? So I say that to say, I said it to paint the picture of a lot of the times the things that we desire is because we want others to see us with it or in it or, doing this thing. It's not really for us. It's for our egos, right? We're feeding our egos. And I remember once having that car gave me more problems than any other car I've ever had. Not to put a knock on Land Rover, the brand, but there's a lot of issues that brand has, especially the Range Rover line or model, I should say. There's a lot of suspension problems and just other problems that it just comes with the car, right? It's a beautiful car. I loved the car. Don't get me wrong. I was really excited and appreciative of getting it. But then I realized, like, man, like you chase this emblem because of the value that society places on it, right? And it in turn puts that value on you because if I could get it or if I can see myself in it, that value will reflect on me as well. And that's kind of where this more mentality comes from, right? Because we want to be seen as a high value individual, right? A high value person. And usually that comes with having high value things. But the true value isn't in the things that we have, right? I learned this principle growing up. My dad used to tell me this all the time. Like, the things that we have don't give us value. We give them value, right? So the clothes that we wear, the things that we use, the things that we move around in, it shouldn't give us value, right? We should be providing value to it. And, that's something that I kind of took with me and really understood, after that purchase. And, once I got rid of that car, I told myself I probably won't ever buy a Range Rover again. Not because that I didn't like the ride, just because like the brand, I realized like it was just overrated. Right now, that's not to say that I'm not still into like luxury rides and whatnot, but I don't think I'm one of those individuals that gain value from like those type of things. As a matter of fact, like being in those type of vehicles, to me personally, just the type of person that I am, it just brings too much attention, right? It brings too much eyes, and that's uncomfortable for me. So, I realized that yes, I love nice things. We all love nice things. But sometimes like the only reason we want them is because society says that we should have them. So, for me, I've grown to kind of pick the things that I like from what I don't like. And, I'm going to get to some points on how we could ensure that we're not allowing the more society to take us over, right? And one of those principles is to ask yourself, man, do I really need this? Like, is this that important to me? And that's what I started to do, right? Especially with the things that I would attain. Another story I have is with my sneaker collection. I'm a sneakerhead. I've been a sneakerhead since I was in elementary school. I remember seeing my first pair of infrared Jordan 6s. Those were the first Jordans that I saw that I loved, and I was like, man, I need to have those. I remember I was in the gymnasium of my high school, my elementary school actually, and I saw this guy on the court. He had those on. I was like, yo, what are those? And it was black with the red highlights at the bottom. And I was like, man, that is a sexy shoe. And, I was a Jordan fan at the time. The only time I've seen those shoes was on Jordan's feet when he was playing the game. So that was the first time I saw them like in person. And I was like, man, I have to have those shoes. And that's where my love for sneakers grew, right? And, when I was able to, I started to buy sneakers and increase my allotment of sneakers. And, my wife teases me all the time. Like, I have more sneakers than I can wear, right? I only have 2 feet, but I have, I'll be honest. You guys are my tribe. So I'll let you know. I have hundreds of sneakers at this point. I used to have hundreds more, but came to the realization that this might be a bit too much. So I gave a lot of my collection away. But I'm saying this to say, back in the day, I got to the point where I was just buying sneakers, not with the desire to wear them, just for the desire to say that I have them, right? And it may be a sneaker that I always wanted and may have coveted in a sense, but the only reason I got it was to say that I have it and be like, oh yeah, I got those hot pairs of Jordans, or this latest Nike or Adidas or Fila shoe, or whatever the case is. And now I live in an era where I don't buy sneakers unless I'm gonna wear them. Now I still love and collect sneakers, but I'm not at the point where I'm just buying it for buying its sake, right? You have those sneakerheads who buy the sneakers and they never wear them. They just put them up in their closet and they're on display. I'm way past that point now. I still love a great pair of sneakers, but for me, it's more about intention, right? And it's more about like buy what I like, and I'm not, spending a whole bunch of money for it, right? I'm kind of past all those stages of, just being engulfed in this more society, right? Because like I said, I was trapped in it too. And my urge to you who are listening to me today is like, we have to get out of this more mentality, because we have to decide and really say, man, when is enough enough? When is more enough, right? When am I going to be satisfied with what I have, right? Because one thing I realized, and this really changed my perspective on like accumulating possessions, right? When my parents died, one of the things I remember telling myself was, man, they're gone, but they left everything behind. They left a house, they left a bunch of clothes, a bunch of shoes, the cars, like everything they had in their earthly possession were left behind. And, when you think about that, right, they left it, and it was now my responsibility or my family's responsibility to figure out what we're going to do with it, right? Are we going to keep the cars? Are we going to sell the cars? What are we going to do with all these clothes? What are we going to do with the house? And it's like, I don't want to put that responsibility on anyone that may not want it when I'm gone, right? So, I want to get the things that make sense for me, things that I truly love, things that I value, and then things that can add value to like my kids and my other family members and stuff. So it's just something to think about, right? All of these possessions that we have, like we can't take any of it with us when we go, right? Everything is going to be left behind. So should we truly be chasing things, or should we be chasing impact, right? Should we want more, or do we need meaning, right? And that's the challenge, the battle that we should be having with ourselves, right? The practical steps we can take to escape the more society. I want to leave 4 points. The first is we need to practice contentment. And that's just kind of voicing and saying, man, I am satisfied and happy with what I have and where I am in life. And, I find myself doing this on a consistent basis. Like I would just be like, man, God, I thank you for allowing me to be able to provide, to be comfortable. I ask you to continue to bless me so that I can be a blessing. I thank you for my needs being met. Thank you for the things that I am able to provide for my family and my friends, and just continue to take care of my needs, right? Because a lot of the times we don't even recognize that our needs are being taken care of, right? We're able to pay our bills every day. We're able to put food on the table for our family, put clothes on their backs, put a shelter over their head. And sometimes we take those things for granted, right? So just practicing contentment in like the small things and being satisfied with what you have and not really caring about the excess, right? If we're able to attain the excess, then that's great. But if that's what's, moving us and journeying us through our life of purpose, or a lack of purpose, I should say, then, it's not going to be beneficial to us in the long run. So practice contentment. The second is redefine success for yourself. And I feel like this is important, right? And I talk about this a lot because society really paints a picture of what success should look like, what success should be, what success is. And a lot of the times it points to possessions, right? The amount of money you have, the job title, kind of car you drive, the house that you live in, the notoriety or celebrity that you have. They point to all of that as success. But if we start to define success for ourselves, then we can internalize it and personalize it and say, man, to me, success looks like this, right? And for me personally, success is being able to achieve and fulfill the purpose that is in my life, right? The only person that I'm competing with is me. I don't care what anyone else is doing. I don't care what anyone else has. I'm truly content with me. Now, do I like nice things? Do I like to experience nice things? Absolutely. But I don't let it define who I am, right? I don't let it to dictate the decisions that I make, right? My focus is the main thing, and the main thing is my purpose journey, and everything else is just it's just icing on the cake, at this point. So redefine success for yourself. You have to develop your own definition of success, and don't let society to define success for you. And once you define that success or define your success, stick to it. Like, it doesn't matter what others achieve, what someone else is doing. Your success is your success. And as long as you are achieving that definition of success for you, then you're successful, right? And you should be happy in what it is that you're doing. The third thing is, and I mentioned this earlier, pause before pursuing more. And like I said, I ask myself, like, when I'm thinking of making a purchase or want something, like I truly ask myself, man, do I really need this? Do I want this because I really want this, or is it just feeding my ego, right? And a lot of the times, these types of unnecessary purchases just feed your ego, right? And what I do is I give myself 3 months. I say, if I feel the same way in 3 months, then it's probably something I'm going to get. But if I don't feel the same way in 3 months, I'm not gonna bother with it. And quite a bit of the times, I'd say about 90% of the times, I don't feel like it's something that I still want after 3 months, right? And I'm able to now put my focus in other areas and more important areas of my life, right? So just pause before pursuing more, and like truly ask yourself, what do I want? Is this something that I really need? And then the fourth thing is shift from being a consumer to being a contributor, right? Switch from consumption to contribution. Stop taking away so much from life, right? Start contributing yourself. Start giving yourself away. Start reproducing yourself in someone else. I tell people all the time, man, the best thing you can do is to find someone and mentor them. And it doesn't matter who it is, right? It doesn't matter how old you are, right? There's always someone that we can impart good ideology and good principles in, based on what we've experienced and learned in our lives. And I think that impartation on that individual truly is going to make us feel accomplished, right? Make us feel fulfilled. Because essentially that's what life is about, right? Life is about continuing to, yes, better ourselves, but helping others in the process, right? So once we shift from consuming so much and making our contribution to life, then the more isn't going to matter, right? Because the focus is going to be elsewhere. The focus is going to be on, I prefer to make contributions than to consume. So, life isn't about what you collect. It's about what you can contribute. And our contribution should be something that lives beyond us, right? I look at an example of my dad's life and the contribution that he made. And, he's been gone, him and my mother, they've been gone over 10 years now. And their life is still impacting, right? Today, even, I get calls and messages, emails all the time, and just people saying how impactful my dad is still on their life. Some people didn't even know him in their life, in his lifetime, right? They didn't hear about him until maybe 2-3 years ago. But the things that he contributed to the world are still impacting. And that's the kind of contributions that we want to make. All right, so that brings me to the milestone for today's episode. And the milestone today is a question and a challenge for you, my audience, right? And the question is, what is your more right now? And if you never got it, would you still feel whole? True fulfillment is not found in having more. It's found in becoming more of who we are created to be, right? So, essentially that question is, what are you defining as more for your life? What is the more that you're chasing? The more that you're chasing, if you never were to get it, would you still feel whole? And like I said earlier, a lot of the times, yes, we still would feel whole because the more we're chasing are just worldly possessions, right? I think if we start to chase meaning, right, and making a contribution to the world, the fulfillment that we're going to experience, right, the type of impact that we're going to have, and the success that brings us, I feel it's going to be more than anything that we can desire or purchase, right? Anything that we can attain as far as worldly possessions. I want to encourage you and continue to encourage you to not allow this more society to take advantage and take over our journey of purpose. Life is about meaning and having meaning. Life is about ensuring that we give a contribution to it each and every day. And I want to encourage you to continue to do that because, a life well lived is a life where we reproduce ourselves and continue to reproduce ourselves and others. For me, it's in my family, my kids, my loved one, those that I have direct contact with on a day-to-day basis. I learned this from my dad and the impact that he has had, and being gone 10 years and still seeing that impact, it inspires me to want to do the same, right? So it's not about the things that I can attain from a personal or possessional level, but it's, man, what contribution can I give? And I want to challenge you to do the same thing, all right? So that brings us to the end of this episode. Man, as always, the vision and goal of this podcast is to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, so until next time, you guys stay blessed.